Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at White Lotus Day, May 8th. It's a day theosophists observe every year.
Right, and it's really, it's more than just remembering someone, isn't it?
Exactly. It's a moment to think about the big ideas: peace, unity, spiritual insight.
Yeah.
All connected to Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, HPB.
And the symbolism is so potent, the White Lotus itself.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. This flower, it grows up from the mud, through the dark water, and then blooms beautifully in the light. It's such a powerful metaphor, really, for our own spiritual journey.
That's a great image. And HPB herself, she actually asked her followers specifically to read from two particular books on this day.
Yes, Sir Edwin Arnold's The Light of Asia and the Bhagavad Gita.
Which seems like, well, a very deliberate choice. These texts are from quite different traditions.
Oh, absolutely deliberate. And that choice, it gives us a real key, I think, to understanding her whole spiritual perspective.
So the Light of Asia, that's the Buddha's story,
Yeah.
compassion.
Right, that beautiful telling of the Buddha's life, his message of, universal compassion. And then the Bhagavad Gita.
Which is all about duty, reality.
Exactly. That deep dive into Dharma, duty, the nature of reality. Putting them together like that tells you a lot about what she thought was truly fundamental.
And that's what we want to get into today, isn't it? Exploring those connections, her life, her writings, and the wisdom in these two specific texts.
Yeah, looking at how she really lived out Dharma, especially her own unique duty Svadharma.
Through her commitment to universal brotherhood, spiritual enlightenment,
Yeah.
all of that.
And we need to look at the historical side, too, draw on the accounts we have. Sylvia Cranston's biography, for instance, is incredibly detailed.
Right, and Countess Wattmeister's writings.
Yeah.
Especially about the Secret Doctrine.
Exactly. Her reminiscences give us such a personal insight, particularly into the sacrifices HPB made while writing that book. It really sheds light on her Dharmic path.
Okay, so let's start there with that pairing. The Light of Asia and the Bhagavad Gita. Why these two together? What statement was she making?
Well, it wasn't just that she liked them. It feels like she was making a really profound point. By putting them side by side, she was showing or suggesting a kind of unified spiritual source behind different traditions.
Ah, the ancient wisdom idea.
Precisely.
Yeah.
That concept was absolutely central to her. So these books weren't just influences. They were like foundational pillars for the whole theosophical framework she was building.
Okay, let's take the Light of Asia first. For anyone listening who haven't read it, what's the essence of it?
Sure. So Sir Edwin Arnold's poem, The Light of Asia, came out in 1879. And for the West at that time, it was pretty revolutionary.
How so?
It gave this really sympathetic, beautifully written account of the Buddha's life and his teachings. His whole journey from being a prince to enlightenment and teaching how to end suffering. It made it accessible.
And HPB thought highly of it.
Oh, extremely highly. Right in the first issue of her journal, The Theosophist, there's this review, maybe by her, maybe someone close, just praising its literary talent, its philosophical thought, its religious feeling.
So she saw its value.
Definitely. She felt it captured the Buddha's character, his message, in its unadulterated beauty, as the review said. It made his story relatable for Westerners who were just starting to look beyond their own traditions.
So it was more than just a nice poem for her. It served a purpose.
Exactly. It was a vehicle, a way to convey the Buddha's central message, compassion, that deep empathy for all suffering beings. And also renunciation, letting go of selfish desires to find liberation.
Themes that really resonate with theosophy.
Absolutely, especially altruism and the bodhisattva ideal.
The bodhisattva. That's the idea of choosing to stay and help others, right? Instead of just achieving liberation for oneself.
Precisely that. An enlightened being who postpones their own final nirvana to help everyone else get there. HPB saw that kind of selfless compassion as absolutely vital.
And promoting this poem, how did that fit into the Theosophical Society's goals?
Well, it directly supported their second object, which was all about encouraging the comparative study of religion, philosophy, and science.
Makes sense.
By championing the Light of Asia, she was actively bringing Eastern ideas like karma, cause and effect, and reincarnation into the Western conversation, making them less foreign.
And Cranston suggests they even helped revive interest in Buddhism in the East.
Yes, apparently so,
Yeah.
which is quite something. It shows the poem had a really wide-ranging impact, not just in the West.
Fascinating. Okay, so that's the Light of Asia, highlighting compassion. What about the Bhagavad Gita? What was its role in her thinking?
Ah, the Gita. Well, it's such a cornerstone of Hindu scripture, isn't it? The Lord's Song.
The dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right before this massive battle. And it tackles these huge questions. Dharma, duty, what's real, yoga, and Nishkama Karma.
Nishkama Karma, selfless action.
Right, acting without being attached to the results. And very importantly for our discussion, it really emphasizes Svadharma, fulfilling your own specific duty in life.
And HPB didn't just see it as philosophy, did she? She saw deeper meanings.
Oh, absolutely. She called it preeminently occult or esoteric, meaning she believed it held hidden wisdom, truths you could only really grasp through inner understanding, not just literal reading.
That's a core theosophical idea, isn't it?
Inner understanding.
It is. She even claimed that positively all the doctrines given in esoteric Buddhism are to be found in the Gita, a huge claim.
Wow. And she connected it to Tibetan teachings, too.
Yes, she saw an almost perfect identity between the Gita's hidden meaning and what she called the Arhat Tibetan doctrine, which was central to her own esoteric system.
So what specific Gita teachings really resonated with her synthesis? Well, things like karma, definitely. The soul being immortal, journeying through lifetimes, the idea of cosmic cycles, and fundamentally the unity of the individual soul with the universal spirit. All these were absolutely woven into the fabric of her theosophy.
Okay, so putting them together, Light of Asia for compassion,
Oh.
Gita for duty, and esoteric truth. What was the bigger picture she was painting?
I think by pairing them, she was making a powerful argument for the underlying unity of all true spirituality. That beneath the surface differences of Buddhism and Hinduism and other traditions too, there's this shared source.
The ancient wisdom again.
Exactly. It was her way of demonstrating it, making it tangible, showing how these different streams flowed from the same deep wellspring. And of course, it directly served the theosophical goal of comparative study, pointing people towards this universal tradition she believed in.
Like saying, look deeper, it all connects. Okay, let's really dig into Dharma now. It's so key to the Gita. How did HPB's life actually embody this?
Right, Dharma. It's such a rich concept. And when you look at HPB's life, her relentless drive, her sacrifices, Dharma really does seem like the perfect lens to understand it all. Her life was Dharma in action, you could say.
Can you maybe elaborate a bit more on what Dharma means in the Gita, just the key parts?
Sure. It's multifaceted, really. It means duty, yes, but also righteousness, cosmic order, the inherent nature of things. It's the principle of right action, action that upholds truth and harmony.
And Nishkama Karma is part of that.
Yes, doing your duty selflessly without worrying about praise or blame or reward, just doing what needs to be done. And then there's Svadharma.
Your own unique duty.
Exactly, your specific path, the one that's right for you. Like Krishna tells Arjuna, it's better to do your own duty, even imperfectly, than someone else's perfectly.
And how did Theosophy, HPB's system, view Dharma? Was it similar?
Very similar. Theosophy sees Dharma as righteousness, as duty, as the principle that sustains everything. Living your Dharma means aligning with your highest self, which naturally leads to spiritual growth. And HPB linked it directly to karma. Living in accordance with Dharma helps maintain cosmic balance.
Okay, got it. So with that framework, how did HPB live out her Svadharma, her unique duty?
Well, you have to look at the founding of the Theosophical Society in 1875, that first object.
To form a nucleus of the universal brotherhood of humanity.
Without distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, or color. Yes. That wasn't just a mission statement. It seems like it was her absolute driving force, her Svadharma.
Promoting theosophy as this synthesis.
Right, reviving the ancient wisdom, trying to show the common ground between science, religion, philosophy. And a huge part of that, a massive undertaking, was introducing Eastern thought to the West.
Which couldn't have been easy.
Not at all. It required incredible knowledge, obviously, but also just sheer grit. Facing skepticism, hostility, it clearly wasn't just an intellectual project for her. It felt like a spiritual calling, something she had to do, even if it meant giving up any semblance of a normal, comfortable life.
And her work on religious unity, trying to bridge the gaps between different faiths.
Was that part of her Svadharma too?
Oh, fundamentally. She believed, or Theosophy teaches, that all religions spring from the same divine source, share the same inner esoteric core, the Secret Doctrine.
So she wanted to reveal that shared core.
Exactly. To heal the divisions caused by dogma and exclusivism. It's interesting, the Sanskrit root of dharma, dhyadishar, means to hold together, to support.
Ah, okay.
And HPB wanted to bind all beings into one grand whole. She called that religion per se. So her work for religious unity wasn't just about tolerance. It was about awakening humanity to its shared spiritual identity, which she saw as the only real basis for universal brotherhood. It's clear this mission was huge, and she faced a lot. Which brings us to sacrifice. It seems like her path was just filled with personal sacrifice for her Dharma.
It really was. When you read the accounts, especially Cranston's biography, it's almost overwhelming. The consistency of it, it really drives home her commitment, and it's a powerful example of Nishkama Karma, selfless action, doing the duty without thinking about the personal cost.
Cranston really emphasizes how she put the mission first, doesn't she? Can you give some examples of the kinds of sacrifices she made?
Well, her physical health, for one. Towards the end, people who knew her described her as being almost constantly ill. Think about it. Intense writing, endless travel, plus what many believed were huge psychic exertions.
Her sister Vera mentioned her living with incredible intensity.
Yes, almost superhuman, Vera suggested. And that terrible kidney infection later on nearly killed her. It just shows the physical toll. Putting the mission so far ahead of her own health, that's real dedication.
And it wasn't just physical health, right? Her reputation took a beating, too.
A massive beating, constant accusations of fraud, the Hodgson report being the most famous, perhaps, public attacks, vilification. She even had to resign from her position in the society for a time because of it.
To keep going despite all that.
It must have taken incredible courage and a real detachment from what people thought of her personally, just focusing on the work, on what she believed was right, regardless of the attacks. That's powerful.
What about money? Did she profit from all this?
Apparently not. Despite her books becoming quite influential, sources say she never got rich from it, wasn't trying to. She lived pretty simply, often relying on friends for support. Any money from the books just went back into the cause.
So a real detachment from material wealth.
Seems like it. Her focus was clearly elsewhere.
And then there's the sacrifice of just, well, a normal life.
Exactly. She came from Russian aristocracy, right? But she walked away from all that very young, left home, fled an early marriage, spent her life traveling to some pretty rough and remote places for her research and work.
A complete renunciation of comfort and convention.
Yes. It points to this absolute unwavering focus on her Dharma, her unique path.
It's an incredible picture of commitment. And all these sacrifices seem to culminate in that dramatic story around the writing of the Secret Doctrine. Her near-death experience then.
Yes, that period in early 1887 in Ostend, Belgium. It's maybe the most striking example of all. Countess Wachtmeister, who was right there with her, helping her, wrote about it vividly in her reminiscences.
HPB got incredibly ill.
Critically ill, a severe kidney infection. The doctors basically gave her no hope, said she wouldn't survive. She was apparently in so much pain, so close to death, that she actually prepared her will.
Just devastating.
Truly. Wachtmeister describes her suffering intensely. And then, according to HPB's own account, reported by the Countess, her master appeared to her.
Your spiritual teacher.
Yes, and offered her a choice.
A choice.
Essentially. Let go, die, and be free from the suffering, or choose to live, endure the pain, and finish the Secret Doctrine.
Wow. That's quite a choice to face. What did she do?
She chose to live. Despite the agony, despite knowing it meant more hardship, she chose to stay and complete the book.
Why?
Because she was utterly convinced of its importance. For the Theosophical Society, for humanity's spiritual understanding in the long run, she put that duty, that responsibility to share the knowledge ahead of her own release from suffering.
That's an extraordinary level of will. It wasn't just putting up with illness. It was actively choosing more suffering for a higher purpose.
Exactly. It was a conscious embrace of suffering for an altruistic goal. A supreme act of will, you could say, perfectly aligned with the Gita's teaching of detached duty.
And she said, the Secret Doctrine should be read with the will.
Yes. And this whole episode shows the incredible will she possessed. So the book itself, The Secret Doctrine, its very existence is tied to this profound sacrifice. It makes it more than just a book, doesn't it?
It makes it a testament to her spirit.
Absolutely. A testament to her spirit, an embodiment of those Dharmic principles. Studying it almost becomes like connecting with her strength, her selfless choice.
It really does seem clear then, looking at HPB through the lens of the Light of Asia, the Bhagavad Gita, and seeing her sacrifices, she really stand out as this figure of immense Dharmic commitment.
Yeah, it becomes so apparent. Her whole life, that relentless drive for universal brotherhood, reviving the ancient wisdom, getting the Secret Doctrine finished, it just screams Svadharma and Nishkama Karma.
Her unique duty performed selflessly.
Right. And the principles from those two books, the Buddha's compassion, Krishna's call to duty, they weren't just ideas she wrote about. They were clearly lived, deeply lived, through all the hardships she endured for that greater purpose.
And that dedication, those sacrifices.
Yeah.
they still inspire people today, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. Her life is still this powerful model of selfless service. It kind of challenges you, doesn't it? To think about dedicating yourself to something bigger, to that ideal of brotherhood.
It shows what one person can do.
Yes, one person with that kind of vision and sheer will can really, light a fire for others.
So, thinking about White Lotus Day again, when Theosophists read from the Light of Asia and the Bhagavad Gita, as she asked, what's the significance of keeping that practice alive?
Well, bringing it back to today, that annual observance, especially the reading of those specific texts, it becomes a really potent act. It's a way to consciously reconnect with her mission, with her understanding and living of Dharma.
Like a rededication each year.
Exactly, a rededication to those core principles, compassion and selfless duty that guided her life. It helps ensure her legacy isn't just history, but a living force for spiritual growth, for the ongoing work of theosophy and spreading wisdom and compassion.
It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? How can those ideas, selfless duty, seeking unifying wisdom, how can they inform our own lives, our own paths, and maybe how we understand all the different traditions in the world?
It's a profound question to carry with you, definitely.
A really insightful deep dive. Thank you for exploring all of that with us.